Daishi is commonly considered a pretty complicated character for people to play, and one thing I've noticed people consistently struggle with are Dai's stump loops, which are often the key to unlocking his most damaging combos. Now, what is a stump loop, you might ask? Well, in Grid, when you use a move to hit OTG, that's off the ground, the first OTG will cause a small ground bounce, allowing you to more easily pick up from it. However, the following OTGs don't have that bounce, which seemingly stop you from continuing the combo. But some characters, Daishi included, can pick up with a quickly timed button after the said OTG to follow it up. In the case of Dai, usually 2L after his 6SL Demon Flip. That's his stump loop. Now, there are a couple of things that trip people up here. On the one hand, you do just need to practice the timing of landing a 2L, there's not much getting around it. It's a hard link, put the work in, you'll start seeing results. But that being said, it's actually not the 2L you need to worry about the first thing. It's how you hit the 6SL / during the leap more than anything else, because Dai's stump loops do depend on two different things. Firstly, yes, the timing of the 2L, but perhaps more importantly, making sure you hit the 6SL so that you have enough time to pick it up. This is hugely important, as you can hit it way too early and then the pickup becomes completely impossible. Luckily, there's a good visual trick to hitting it correctly. When Dai jumps with his 6S, he rises and then he descends. If you hit the 6SL as he descends, you should, as a rule of thumb, have enough time to pick up afterwards and hit that 2L link. Hitting it as close to the ground as possible, without it whiffing, is optimal for the stump loop since it increases your chance to hit the 2L, giving you more time to land it. That's the basics of how stump loops work. Just make sure you're hitting that 6SL in the right way to make sure you're not completely shooting yourself in the foot while training. But I'd also like to go and see some other tricks and applications for landing these stump loops. Now firstly, the timing for initiating the 6S after you knock them to the ground can actually affect your jump arc. If you delay the 6S for a split second, I usually wait until Dai's arms start to move again, then the timing for the 6SL can be a bit simpler, since the window for hitting it is a bit more lenient thanks to a change in the jump. And I would also recommend learning the delay anyway, since it's what you need for full screen 6SL conversions. And it means you don't have to widely switch timings between two methods. You can even use this method to stump loop from full screen, and it's super useful to learn with Dai in the cases where you need that full screen carry. I also like to standardize the height the opponent is at before doing the 5H knockdown. I tend to do this by connecting 5M 2M into 5H rather than 5MM, just making sure the opponent is juggled a bit more evenly. And lastly, it is also possible, though much more difficult, to stump using 2M with Dai. But this requires basically a near perfect 6SL, so it's very impractical to do in actual games. It is, however, I think, really good to try in training once you start getting 6SL loops down, since it actually helps your reflexes with 2L stumps, as they are way easier in comparison, and hitting the 2M stump will really give you a strong idea of when you need to be hitting that 6SL. But that's often something you can practice a little bit later. Make sure you get those 6SL 2L stumps down first. But hopefully this was helpful as a visual guide for stumps, and I'm looking forward to seeing more Dai players on the grid.